being here. Our program, much like this facility, you can see, is we are under heavy construction. So, been a long time since I was at the podium. I've seen most of you all at basketball games and those type of events. Two huge road wins basketball-wise this week too. So, congrats to those guys. Won't lie and say that I've missed the podium, but I am excited to be back. Not necessarily at the podium, but for this time of year. I think I said this last year. Spring ball, fall camp, my favorite times of the year. Selfishly, just because we get to teach. You know, you're not necessarily preparing for an opponent. You get to actually teach fundamentals and be a teacher. We're finishing up our winter workouts. We'll conclude those tomorrow. We had our last kind of team workout this morning, finishing up that. Really kind of a 6-week period. I like our energy. It's a group that I think we're growing in some of the key areas that we were focused on in the winter, and that's really discipline, accountability, mental toughness. And the last one was competitive character, trying to put them in as many situations as we possibly can, where there's defined winners and losers. As a team and really as a program right now, winter and then heading into spring, really just our entire focus is on growth and marked improvement, both from an individual and a unit team perspective. I want to kind of hit those real quick just so you kind of understand where I'm from. From a team, these are some of the key areas in the spring that we're looking at is turnover margin. So that's a whole team. And offensively, we've got to do a better job of throwing fewer interceptions. That was where our issues were last year. Defensively, we got to force more takeaways. And then special teams, we've got to do a better job of forcing those same takeaways. So a lot of time and effort will be invested in improving that as a whole football team. Red zone, offense, defense, and special teams. Special teams, we've got to do a better job making our field goals in the red zone. Offensively, the focus is making sure we score touchdowns. We've got to do a better job of that. That was part of some of our major issues a year ago. And then defensively, we got to try to make guys kick. And then we didn't have a single takeaway down in the deep red zone last year, so we got to do. And so we're gonna do a lot of that, and that'll start from the first day we go next Tuesday and all through 15 practices. And the last thing is on third and medium. You know, offensively, really successful at third and short. Third and medium was a problem for us last year. Defensively, the same thing. Not as good as we need to be on third and medium. So from a team standpoint, those are going to be some of the three main areas. To another point, offensively, as you know, we talked about it a year ago. Really major area that we've got to get better at is rushing the football. And I think we've got a good plan for that. Time will tell. We won't know that until we line up and play against Florida State, but we've got a plan on how we're going to attack that. Defensively, another priority is we've got to do a better job of defending and minimizing big plays downfield. We did that in the run game, but we had way too many explosive pass plays last year, so it's something we're working on. And then special teams, our punt return unit is something where we've got to make marked improvement. And then the last thing there is just net punting. And our net punting numbers, we need to improve on that, and we should. Before we get into the questions, I wanted to this is the first time opportunity to really kind of publicly talk about our new hires. We have 3 new on-field positions that I'm excited about. We had movement. You know, I think we had this last time I was here was in December. Somebody asked me if we were going to have any movement. You never know. Obviously, we did. I don't remember how I answered that, but we had movement, and we brought in 3 quality people. And the people that left our program is we lost quality people. And what we try to do is we try to go out and hire people that are going to make our program better. And just like when a senior leaves or somebody transfers, we're trying to bring in people to not only fill those roles, but also increase and make those roles better. And start off with Jared Parker, who's going to coach our wide receivers and be our offensive coordinator. Known Jared for a long time, played together at the University of Kentucky. I feel, and I'm biased, but I think he's the best wide receiver coach in the country. He's going to be our lead in our offensive room for our managing game plan. And a lot of trust there just because of our history and our personal relationship. He's been in a lot of really good places. He knows what great offenses look like, and he's going to add a great benefit not only to me but to our football program as a whole. And the thing that is common about all 3 of these individuals, I think this is a phenomenal fit for them. Jared's an Eastern Kentucky guy. He was born in Huntington. He coached at Marshall. He understands the state. He understands what we're about. And I can say the same thing about Dante Wright. Dante's younger than Jared, but Dante's from Eastern Kentucky. I like Dante's career path. He's led units. He's been a defense coordinator. He's been a special teams coordinator. He's comfortable in front of people. I like the path he had to take to get here. He's been at Division III. He's been at Division II. He's been at the FCS level. He's been at the Group of 5 level. And so, again, I think his fit, and he's really a teacher. That's what struck me when he came and visited with us, is what type of teacher he was. I think he relates well to all types of kids, and I've been impressed watching him over the first couple of weeks. And then our third hire was Jeff Kuntz, who's going to coach our inside linebackers and be our special teams coordinator. Jeff's a guy that had a small relationship with, but more importantly knew a bunch of people that he had worked for and with. And the guy that I kind of had on my list, I think everybody, most people in this profession that are doing a good job, they anticipate, having to make hires and things like that. You always keep a list. And he's a guy that I've had on my list for a number of years. I think he's a teacher. I think he's a fit. He had relationships with a lot of the guys that are on our staff. And I'm excited about him leading our special teams. Quality experience. He's been a defensive coordinator. He's led special teams units. And all three of these guys, not only football-wise, but I think they're really good people, first and foremost. And the other thing, too, that I think they're going to add something to recruiting. And I think you're seeing some of those already. Kind of wrap things up. I'm excited about where we're going. I believe in this group. That belief is stronger now than it was a year ago, just because I know the guys in our program. I have relationships with them. Those take time. Not perfect, but we're getting better. Competition at every spot this spring. We don't have a depth chart, which frustrates Monty, but he's going to deal with it. We won't come out of here where we're going to label starters and all that kind of stuff. I know you all want to ask about individuals, and we'll talk about them. But at every spot, from the guys that made all league to every spot, we're going to compete. Everybody's going to get reps, and they're going to earn playing time. And it's a long time before we line up and play down the Mercedes-Benz Dome. So last thing I want to hit, something that's important to Brooke and I, Read Across America Week. And so a lot of you that have small kids, I'm sure y'all are doing, I don't know what Thursday's theme was, Wacky Wednesday yesterday, so I'm sure Tony is all over that. But it's important. I think it's important, and our team's been in a lot of schools this week. They'll continue to be doing that. We don't promote that just because I think that defeats the purpose behind it. But it is. Just want to bring some attention to that. So with that, Greg will open us up with questions.
With the new coaches, especially against Parker, how much do you tweak your offense, or is it your offense and Jared's got to get used to it?
Well, we're going to tweak. I mean, anytime you don't get the results that you want, I think the first thing you do is you go into self-reflection mode and in mode of how we can get better, and go out and figure out how the best are doing it and why, and then how do we need to make changes. The fundamental beliefs won't change. I think that we're going to simplify some things that we're doing. I think we need to go back to basics. I think last year we may have tried to cover up some deficiencies we had, and when we did that, we got away from some things that I think are really important. So we'll get back to that. That's how we're going to handle it.
Any players going to miss spring with injury, recovering from injury?
Yeah, so I'll kind of hit these. I might because I thought about that as I was walking down here. So we're going to have some guys that are limited. I'm not going to get into exactly what their injuries are, but we're going to have some guys that are limited. We will, most everyone will do some type of practice during spring, okay? So we don't have anybody that's just not doing anything. We just got some guys that won't be in full contact drills. Some of the guys that are limited are Chase Barrett. I'm just going through this kind of by position, so bear with me for a second. Defensively, Usman Kamara, Taj Austin, Jordan Jefferson, Vandarius Cowan, Josh Chandler. I believe that is everyone. So they're all recovering from some type of surgery, and they will be out there, and I think their activity will increase as we go through the spring, but they won't do all the full contact stuff.
Neal, you mentioned wanting to improve the running game. I know a lot goes into what went wrong with it last year, but the running backs that you have coming back, what do you like? What do they need to work on? What are you looking for them to do this?
I thought, and sometimes the numbers are deceiving a little bit. I mean, they are what they are, but they're a little bit deceiving. Letty Brown played pretty well the last month of the season. Really starting the Kansas State game on. Thought he did a nice job of winning one-on-ones, and we really struggled in that aspect last year, but I thought he did a good job. His wins may look a little different than some other people's wins because he may fall forward and run through a tackle rather than make a guy miss, but I thought he won a high percentage of his one-on-ones. I like where he's at right now. And you can see it's been on social media, tried to give you a little bit of peek into our winter workouts by our assistant coaches, kind of promoting who's doing well, and he's been on those lists a lot. So I like his mentality right now. Tony Mathis is a guy that in our Monday Night Football stuff, he played against Texas Tech some and had some success there at the end of the game last year. But he really showed up in our Monday Night Football. That's a big difference between doing that and then going and playing Florida State. But I like his potential. I really liked him in high school. Sinkfield is back in the running back room, and really with the main objective for him is he's got to be better in space, and that's something that he's taken upon himself. You know, I always talk about when we get into spring ball, like you always want to see that growth because there's always some guys that really grow. Like I'm really excited about watching him to see how much improvement he's made in the last 3 months.
For players like him and others that are trying to develop a specific skill, how important are your off-season skill development things? Is that where the base was set to try to take this next step in
Yeah,
the spring?
it does. Like when we came back from winter break, which was a longer winter break than we hope we have in the future, but when we come back from we had set downs with every single kid, and we talked about these individual development plans. And so, you know, kind of what are you doing well? What do you need to sustain? What are your improvement areas? So we go through those, and then not only do we give those, but then we go, okay, what's our path for attacking these? How are we going to get better? And so a lot of things that we necessarily can't do as coaches that don't happen within the 8-hour rule, that they have to take the initiative and do it on their own. And we don't see the fruits of that because we can't do anything with the ball until we get into spring practice. So that's, as a coach, you're always, you know, you think guys are here, that guys are doing extra work and doing things and really working on their craft, but until you actually go see it, you don't know. So it's kind of one of those unknowns as a coach when you get into spring ball, and there's always going to be people that surprise you. There's going to be the flip side. There's going to be some disappointments too, but there's going to be people that surprise you. But those are huge. Those are huge. I think we are limited so much in football on skill development. You know, we have plenty of time, strength conditioning, all that kind of stuff, but we're really limited skill development. And so we got to there's an emphasis on the guys doing that by themselves.
Phil, what do you see from as going ahead for Zach Frazier through his freshman year?
Yeah, first of all, 4-time state champion. That's impressive. I mean, really.
Careful you don't lose him.
Huh?
Be careful you don't lose him.
Yeah, that's a good point. But but that first of all, that's really impressive. You know, did you guys that cover wrestling? I appreciate wrestling, but I can't say that I know a ton about it. Did he ever lose to a West Virginia kid?
Lost twice as a freshman, and once was,
But it was out of state, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think they were like tournaments in Tennessee.
I think they're out of state. So to go through a whole career and not lose, that's very impressive. So he's a guy that I think physically is going to be able to compete from a strength standpoint. You know, one thing you don't talk, or I don't know if we talked about this during the recruiting phase or not. I mean, after signing day, he's got really long arms. He's got huge hands. We're going to start him at center. So there's a little bit higher learning curve when you're playing center because you have to make all the calls and all those type of things. and he's never snapped. Now, he's a kid that I really believe is probably serious about improving that and getting good. I believe he'll be a good snapper when he gets here. Just 'cause I think he's about those things as far as getting better and working on his own. But he's a guy that definitely could get in the mix as a true freshman.
Neal, when you got here last year and going into the spring, it seemed like you had so much to do and everything was pedal to the floor 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
How much has changed today versus when we were standing here getting ready for spring last year?
Well, I think we got, this press conference, we don't have enough time for what else changed,
Yeah.
but, I think that the break, while I never want to have that long a break, I think the break that we had, during bowl season was really positive for me as the head coach, for me personally, just because you do so much reflection. And everything from January, which is kind of late in the process, through signing day, was really just about next, you know. And so what happens is you get that time to reflect, and you gotta look inward, you take ownership on what I could have done better. Same thing I did with the players. Is, hey, what do we need to sustain? What do we need to improve? And they're for sure. I think right now, I think we've got a better grasp of who we want to be. And I don't know if you can completely answer that question until you've been in a spot, you know, or you've worked with the kids, or you've been with staff, you know. But I think the players have a much better understanding of what we want to look like as a program. What do we want to look like on offense, defense, special teams? What's really important? I think they have a better understanding themselves, because you got to understand, like, and you'll follow. Everybody in this room follows us pretty heavily, so you know our roster. But not only do we go through a coaching change, but our roster was vastly different than the roster that was here in 2018 in all three phases. So when you look at that, not only do our guys have a better understanding of what we expect, but they have a better understanding of each other, and they know each other a lot better than they did this time a year ago. Kind of bounced around. I don't know if I can answer your question, but I tried to.
What did, as much as you can tell us, what did the early conversation in January with Kendall and Jarrett to pacify, those guys and keep them in a competition mode?
Yeah, I think both of them, and that's the other thing, you kind of go back and you watch all your video during some of that dead time, during the break. I thought both of them did some really, really good things. I think both of them, there's some big time improvements they can make. And one of them was simple. I just thought they needed to become, they needed to challenge each other better and really push each other to be better. That was kind of a demand that I asked of both of them, is just push each other, because you'll get better in the process if you're pushing the other guy. So just like the other spots we have, they're in competition. They're, and it's really, everybody gets reps. So talk about in spring, it gets a little different when you get out of camp mode in fall, but at this point, everybody gets reps. That's why I don't go into a depth chart, because sometimes we two-spot things. Y'all seen us practice. We got a bunch of reps going on. But with the quarterbacks, we gave them some things that they needed to really work on in our winter school. From what I'm able to see, is they're more comfortable with what we're doing. I think fundamentally they approve me just looking at things that don't involve the ball. And like I said, I think we're going to be better. Like, our receivers going to be a year older. We were young last year there. We will be able to run the football better. Now, I think we're going to make marginal gains. I think the running game is going to be a process. It's going to be, I don't think we're going to go from where we are, okay? 'Cause where we are is where we are. Y'all can look it up. It's bad, okay? But in that top 5 or 1, 2, I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to make marginal improvements. So we're going to be better, which allows them to get help. I think O-line wise, even though we lost Colton and Kelby, there's going to be more cohesiveness there, just because all those guys are back. Even the guys that redshirted last year, like a Brandon Yates or a Parker Moore, those guys understand the system, and they've been working together longer. So I think we're going to be better around them, which is going to improve their performance as well.
Coach, you touched on something there. I think a lot of focus is going to be on the lead.
Key photographer too, Jed. I was trying to match you yesterday with my, but like.
What is it?
The photography work, man, I'm impressed.
Oh, I appreciate it.
I tried to match yesterday.
I'm gonna
Did the
sign
National
up.
Weather Service pick you up one day? Like I
The
saw
Weather
him.
Channel. Yeah, the
Weather Channel.
did. They sure did.
Tony is
yeah.
jealous. I can see
I'm
that.
getting texts or emails from Russians showing me their waterfalls now.
Oh, yeah?
But,
I'm impressed. I enjoy those. I tried to match you yesterday, but
I saw that. I
Yep.
retweeted you there.
Okay.
I saw it was a good shot. But a lot of focus is obviously going to be on the leap you're trying to take in the run game. But you've talked before about all the production you have returning on the perimeter. Okay, you got two guys coaching your wideouts and coaching your slots that are accomplished guys. Big plays are downstream of more productive and consistent blocking on the perimeter, right? Talk about maybe how all those things tie together with those wideouts coming back to those big play possibilities.
yeah, that group. So if you rewind a year ago, you know, I stood up here after post practice and like talked about our receiver play. You know, it was making me grayer and how we had a long ways to go. Well, you fast forward a year ago, and we talked about, hey, we got to fix the room, we got to do some things. Well, you fast forward a year ago, now they go from that youth to a group that I think potentially they got to go out and do it consistently, but potentially could be one of the strengths of our football team. And not only just route running and catching the ball, but on the perimeter, because we're going to be stronger, understand better technique as far as blocking. It is huge. Okay. The other thing too is when you're able to beat man coverage. All right. If people play man, they're +1 you in the box. All right. So, and that happened to us, especially early last year. Missouri's a great example. But if you play man, you can outnumber people in the box, which it's hard to run the ball. And if you're not winning your one-on-ones versus that unblocked guy, then it's really, really difficult. Okay. So we're going to be better at beat man coverage, which will make people play with the second safety more, which, all right, will at least get them to the box later. And so that is, it's going to be a huge benefit. And the other thing too is I think that our guys schematically have a better understanding. Okay, and I think how we're going to do a couple of things different. We figured out who we were later in the year schematically, run game wise. And if you watch us, we didn't always have great numbers, but we had people covered up, and we weren't giving up those negative plays like we were earlier in the year. The other thing too, I noticed, this is totally off the subject, is I've been keeping up with like the draft. Just I'm always intrigued by that, where they're coming from. How, if you look, we played against a lot of really good defense players last year, especially D linemen. You know, which I think sometimes our conference gets knocked a little bit, but several defensive linemen from our league are in the top 10 projections, not top 10 overall picks, but top 10 at their positions.
You know, your comment about self-reflection.
Yep.
Now you have like a sole offensive coordinator who you know, and you talk about your relationship. Does that change anything as far as your role in the offense?
Yeah.
Was that part of your evaluation lesson?
Yeah. So here's what I think that I need to do a better job than I did a year ago. Where a year ago felt like those guys were waiting on me a lot, right? And now Jared is leading that room, so when I'm called out to do head coaching stuff, like there's a true leader in there. There's an offensive coordinator. He has the vision, and that's not knocking against anything we did last year. It's just a lot of guys were waiting on me, and they weren't as prepared as they needed to be until probably later in the week. And that's something that, as a head coach, I think you always got to look inward. I think you look inward before you look outward, and that's something that I own. And that was when we had an opening in our staff offensively. That was the reason why I really felt strongly about Jared being the right guy.
Position changes, anything significant going into spring?
I'm just looking at Greg. I'll tell you. No big or no major position switch. No, I mean we're gonna have some versatility in our secondary. Just we got a lot of those guys back outside of corner, so we're gonna dual train those guys. Same with some guys at Bandit and Mike linebacker, double train them, but no major position changes to start spring.
Neal, some of those young defensive backs that kind of got thrown in the fire last year, where you at with those guys now?
Yeah, you know, I think Nick Troy Fortune's had a really good offseason. He's a guy that, if you go back, he made several really good plays in that TCU game to finish up. One of them on the last drive, he didn't use great technique, got beat, came and did a little detail thing we talk about all the time with his hands, punching up through the ball, made a big play. I've been impressed with Jackie Matthews to this point. I think he's going to be a key in our secondary, and he's got to be a player for us. Tay Mayo's made a big stride. He's still got a long way to go, but he's made strides from last spring. We're gonna go with Jai for Jaito, so it doesn't put any stress on anybody else. But Jai is a guy that physically is ready to play. You know, he's in a new country and a bunch of different dynamics working there, but he's a guy that's going to get a lot of reps this spring and he'll get better. And then Tyke Smith is a guy that, even though he's freshman All-American, all those type of things, he's got a ton of improvement, and I like how he's pushed himself. And then Sean Mahone has to be a leader for us. I think he played really well at the end of the year. You know, if he can make that same transition, he'll be an NFL player. And then it's going to be fun to watch Alonzo Dye. He was one of our high spots really on scout team and things like that last year. To get him back in the action, and I think Jake Long too. Jake Long is a guy that played some snaps for us later in the year after Norwood got hurt. And then the last one is Drayshawn. Drayshawn Miller will go through practice in the spring, and he's gone through our entire winter workout phase. So I think the red shirt in hindsight is going to be a positive for him.
Anything on Kerry Martin?
Kerry, did I skip him? If I did, I didn't mean to. You know, it's funny, like KJ, played last year, all his games started, and he made the comment to me just this morning. We were finishing our last workout, and we kind of did this kind of a wall sit, and y'all have seen it. I think we've been putting it on social media where we play country roads, and they got to do some kind of activity as long as the song plays. And he came up to me because he was an early enrollee last year, so he comes up and he's like, Coach, there's no way I could have done that a year ago. And I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way you would have done a lot of things a year ago. You just think about, and you're just talking about a year's time, but he's made a lot of growth, and he's a guy that I think is going to be a high-end player for us without a doubt.
How much improvement in the run blocking do you think this winter has provided just in strength and conditioning?
Yeah, well, the strength more so than conditioning. I think that part of it, it's a maturation process too. I mean, I think offensive line is really, really difficult to play young in your career. Now, there's some guys that are special that can do it. But when you get in the trenches, there's such a big difference between a 17, 18-year-old and a 20, 21, 22-year-old. There's a lot of off seasons involved there. And so, plus, the people in our league, they move so much. They move, and that picture changes, especially for those interior guys. It's difficult. So we definitely need to get stronger. The thing that I was encouraged about, and I may even said this in December, the thing I was encouraged about as I went back and watched all our run game cut-ups is we were on people. We had people covered up, and got better at that as the year progressed. We just didn't necessarily get movement, So the hope is, as we grow and mature, get stronger, we can continue to have our communication and get movement. All right, and cover them up, but we also can get movement now.
Do you have enough arms for spring?
Yeah,
spring
we do.
four?
We do. We've got, so Garrett's here, Garrett Green's here, and so he'll get a lot of work, and then Trent Jackson, who's been here, and then we've got a transfer also. His name's Matt Cavallaro that played the national championship game last year from Lackawanna. So yeah, we've got plenty of arms to get through spring.
Give us the reason Sam James should become the big play player that you expect him to be this year.
Yeah, well, I would say he was last year. The thing that he lacked last year was consistency, and so, and I give a lot of credit to Sam because he's a guy that takes ownership. He didn't catch a high enough percentage of his balls. I think he caught 69 for was it 700 or 800 money, somewhere in that range. But he's a guy that had his percentage of drops was, we're looking to catch 91% or higher, and it wasn't anywhere close to that. And some of those were in critical situations. And so I think he did a really good job of taking ownership on that. I think that he's done things that physical, mental preparation that are gonna put him in a better position to be the big time player. And he's stronger. He's gained weight. Like when you see him, he looks different, especially upper body wise. I think the TCU game, if you look back, and I can't remember the kid's name, but he's like second or third corner in the draft from TCU. I think we'll look back and say that what a great learning experience that was for Sam James, because he took him across. I mean, and we lined Sam up a bunch of different places. If you go back and watch the game, he was the number 3 inside. He was the number 2 inside. We played him outside, right, left. We moved him around, and that kid went everywhere he went. And Sam lost more than he won that game. But what happens is it's been a great learning tool, because if we can take the talent Sam has, the speed, the ability to get open at the top of routes, and we combine that with high attention to detail, then he'll be the special player. But I think it might have taken some of those drops, some of those losses against a player of the caliber of the kid at TCU, where Sam wants to be. You know, if we're sitting here 3 years from now and Sam's one of the top players in his position in the draft, I think he'd be pretty fired up about it. And so those have been really good experiences for him, and I think he's going to grow. And at the end of the day, he's going to be a sophomore. You know, and I think fair or unfair, he probably had to carry maybe a higher load than he was ready for a year ago.
Neal, you mentioned.
What do you expect?
I was wondering if you're going to ask a question.
Well, I was gonna say, they're the two guys that could be potentially your.
I wasn't talking about Still. I was talking about you. You're sitting there. I was like, basketball got you worn out. So the thing with the Stills brothers is productive last year. Okay, really productive. Big discrepancy between they're good and bad. Right. To me, great players shouldn't be a big discrepancy. Right. So to me, if you're a great player, like everybody's gonna have a little better day, but like your bad should still be pretty good. You know, if you're a guy, like a dude, right? Like, so our push for them, especially with Darius, is let's minimize what your bad is. You know, let's make your great, and let's try to be at that level all the time, which is consistency. And so it's been good. Dante's going through a kind of a body transformation. He got sick, which has kind of put a pause on that a little bit, but we're taking some weight off of him to get his weight back up to a better weight. But they've had quality winners, and technique-wise, this is a big spring for them. You know, they were productive, but technically they can get a lot better. And
So
enjoy
not
what they do.
necessarily more Baylor games, but more games closer to Baylor.
Yeah, exactly. You know, less Missouri games, less. I could go on. Texas Tech.
Now, you mentioned the new guys in recruiting. Have you set where they're going to recruit territory-wise yet?
Yeah. What if I hit that when I get in there? Because I don't want to say wrong. I'll come find you. I'll tell you.
Do you know where you need extra depth in the summer, or is that gonna maybe?
Yeah, our roster will continue to change. It will. I think that we need to continue to add to our offensive line room. We need to, defensively, corner is a room that I think could value some experience. D tackles, interior D lineman, I think we're probably a body. Probably need one body. Those are some key areas, and those things could always change too as we go through spring. But as we start, that's kind of where I'm at.
You've got offensive linemen and running backs. If you want to run the ball, but rattle off that you need defensive linemen, you have injuries, limitations. Defensive line, linebacker, not ideal, but could that be good? Could that be hindrance on maybe develop guys in different positions?
Yeah, I think probably a lot of programs in the same. It's probably, you've asked this question before. I think you asked me at media days. Kind of the world we're in right now, where you have fewer bodies. And I think we had either 6 or 7 mid-years. I was watching practice earlier in the week, and they had 15 mid-years that were already there. So our numbers in the spring are a little bit down. So we've got to be really intelligent about how we go about practice, but we've got to be physical. Okay, so we're not at a point where we're good enough on both line scrimmages where we can minimize the for physicality during the spring. So we're gonna have to be physical, we're gonna have to be smart about how we do it. We do have some numbers limitations. So how we structure practice, when we take breaks and things like that, it's gonna be important, but we've gotta have a physical element in spring ball.
Okay, thanks, Coach.